Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. It's Thursday, June 10th, 2021, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And we are going to continue with the rather large first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide section on spell explanations. How far along are we? I think So we did clerics, we did druids, we've done a lot of magic users. I think we're at 6th level magic user spells, so we're moving right along. We've got a little ways to go, though. I don't know if today and one more will take care of it. The illusionist stuff is going to be kind of all its own section, in part because of my own foibles about how illusions work in Dungeons and Dragons, and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons in particular. They're just, I've always felt them a bit unwieldy and required a special sort of sensibility to deal with them effectively at a table, and not just make them the early D&D days, it was just common. If somebody saw something they didn't think they could deal with, would automatically say, "I disbelieve," and there was a sort of a sense. Hey, George, welcome, welcome to the chat. June did come up fast. The I disbelieve chant would become this. If it's illusion, you gotta tell me. Kind of like the old fallacy of somebody thinking that if they ask somebody if they're a police officer, they have to tell them. No, if you're a cop, you have to tell me. That's the law. Yeah, it isn't. Sorry. It doesn't work that way at all. And really doesn't work that way with illusions in D&D either. So, but we'll get into that a little bit later. What we will do today is jump into the 6th level spells section, starting with AntiMagic Shell. Must be pointed out that creatures on their own plane are normal creatures, though the spell cast upon the elemental plane of fire, for example, would hedge out none of the creatures of that plane. So the idea that it keeps things, if you're on the prime material plane, keeps ethereal creatures or creatures from the elemental plane of fire out of it, doesn't work necessarily when they are on their own plane where they are considered normal creatures. Control weather for commentary on this spell. See the clerical spell, the same name. A lot of spells in these explanations are going to be like that, and I will also refer you back to them because we don't want to go over that particular same ground again so many times. Death spell. Creatures with less than 1 hit die count as only 1/2 a creature which otherwise has less than 2 hit dice. If such creatures are subjected to the spell, count them off thusly, although the maximum number of affected creatures cannot exceed 80 in any event. Enchanted item. When casting the permanency spell on an item, the magic user need only roll 2 or better with a d20 to avoid loss of a constitution point. So very little risk. This is the case where rolling a 1 and only a 1 is actually a very bad thing. Hey, regarding that death spell, some of these explanations are merely cleaning up some somewhat confusing semantics that may have come up from a spell, rather than being an addendum or an addition to what the spell does or what it's meant to do or explain. Extension 3, see extension 1, there you go. Gaius, or Gaius. I've heard it both ways. Have I heard Gaius? I've heard that too. The casting time. is also the total time the magician has to word the spell. It is otherwise similar to a quest. So the period of time, let's say a spell lasts for the casting time is 8 segments, right? And each segment is 6 seconds, 10 segments in a minute. If the casting time is 5 segments, for instance, you have 30 seconds to word the spell. So there is a real time limit put on it, a real time clock put on it. And this is a way of keeping people from overthinking it on the one hand, and on the other hand, spending so much time trying to parse out all the potential downside or accidents or loopholes, or this isn't contract law. It's a game after all. I often suggest that if a DM's first consideration is to try to screw over a player, they ought to get out of the DM's chair, because it's fun to joke about, maybe a little bit, but you're a neutral arbiter. People describe their actions, you describe the consequences. Sometimes they're obvious and you just describe them, or inconsequential, so you just describe them. Sometimes they need to be randomized, so you go to your dice after thinking of all the possible avenues or options based on the action they are chosen. Randomize it, figure out which one it is, and then give them the consequences. And this goes over and over and over. The world you create it's a bunch of nouns. You're putting a bunch of persons, places, and things, including monsters, castles, Dungeons and Dragons, into a world and letting people explore it, and through their actions, that becomes the game. So, wishes, they say you can twist them. I get it. If people are being a bit too greedy, if you feel like maybe you shouldn't have put a wish in there in the first place, I guess you can have it backfire. But that seems like the DM inserting himself. I often thought it would be a good idea to write a book, and I'll just trademark it right now, called The DM Has No Story. Gesh. Huh. Pronounced Gesh according to Geas. Alright. Never heard it pronounced that way, but that's okay. 5% is still 5%. Indeed, on rolling the 1, that is very true. I would roll the 1 at that point for enchant. I hear you, man. If there's a 1 to be rolled, leave that die in my hand. Glassy. The strength of the glassy area is the same as that of the original material. And that's interesting. Turn something glassy that's iron or something glassy that's stone, one's going to be easier to bust through than the other. Neither is going to react like glass, though. Monster summoning 4 for all list of monsters. Appendix M, summoned monsters. There you go. Move Earth. The practical limitation of the area of effect of this spell is 24 or 240 square feet area, 24 inches, with 4 hours of casting time exclusive of elemental conjuration. You can use earth elementals to help you in that spell, that's an aspect of the spell. Autolux, Freezing Sphere. The sling stone-sized application of this spell has a 40-foot range if hurled by hand. Otherwise, as a sling bullet. All ranges by hand are short Otherwise, treat it as a slung missile. Use grenade-like missiles table to find where misses strike. Reincarnation. Ooh. Oh, we don't want to do that. Wait a minute. Let's switch this up and get it back to... There we go. Reincarnation. See the cleric spell, the same name for commentary on the spell. Spirit Rack. Only one specially illuminated vellum sheet may be prepared by the magic user and be in his or her possession and or control at the same time. This will be realized by any magic user as soon as a second is begun. It is not possible to have two such sheets naming the same being either, as the magic of the naming will be held within the first, but as soon as the second is made, it will go therein. Finally, no creature can make such a sheet naming itself. Alright, well, those are some rather important specifics to that spell. You can't double down on it. You can't create a backup. It's not a firewall. You can't go through one and then the other is suddenly in effect. Only one can exist. Stone to Flesh. This has been coming up lately in my AD&D game. The one I'm playing in with the excellent Dirk Collins. In casting this spell upon a stone block, the magic user can cause that area of effect to be cylindrical, if so desired, so a passage can be made. Maximum diameter 30 feet, minimum 10 feet. So Stone to Flesh isn't just for changing Medusa statues, turning your friends back into flesh. And I'll say there are some shortcomings to the naming of this spell in the first place. Obviously, what was turned to stone by a Medusa is not just the flesh, but also the bones, fingernails, hair. So the blood. So when you turn stone to flesh, if everything was turned to stone, does all that become flesh? Is this just a pile of flesh? No blood, no bones, no hair, no nails? No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. It's not meant to be that literal. So keep that in mind. But it does say you can turn stone block. You want to get through a wall, stone to flesh that. I think you'd have to dig through the flesh then, which is easier than digging through the stone, but still kind of gross. There you go. Draw Midge's instant summons. The special jewel used will have a magically created inscription naming the object it will summon. The inscription is invisible and readable only by means of a read magic spell to all but the caster of the spell. Items contained within a Leomund's secret chest are not subject to this spell. So that's some fairly specific stuff. Probably stuff that came up in one of Gary's games or in the game of someone who asked to discuss it with him. Sarah asks, wait, you make stone to flesh so you can cut through it? So gross. Yeah, that seems to be the case in that application of the spell. Very gross. But, of course, if you've got a big monster in tow who could eat their way through, maybe that's an option. Just set a couple goblins in front of it with forks and knives and come back in a few hours and see how far they've gotten. There you go. Yeah, I know, that's gross too, right? Duo Dimension. See Appendix C, Random Monster Encounters, Astral and Ethereal Encounter Tables. Monster Summoning 5, see List of Monsters Summoned. Appendix M, Summoned Monsters. Phase Door. This spell provides an escape route for high-level magic users, although phase spiders can see and use it with ease. A Gem of Seeing, and True Sight will reveal the presence of a phase door. Now, did I just 6th level? I see. Draw Midges was a 7th level spell. Thought maybe I skipped something there. That brings us up to 8th level spells. Clone. Only humans, demi-humans, and humanoids may be cloned. Pretty clear there. The armor class of this substance is 1. That's for glass steel. Let me back up a second. Humans, demi-humans, and humanoids have fairly specific meanings in first edition. I'm not sure if it includes giants, even though giant class creatures includes a lot of different things. There's some overlap there. Don't get the things confused. Look them up in your DMG and be sure something falls under the heading of humanoid before including it in there. Demi-humans, I think, tend to include dwarves and elves and halflings, gnomes. Monster summoning, we did that. Permanency. There's only 5% chance of the spellcaster actually losing a point of constitution if the spell is cast upon a non-living thing. Once again, George and I. No better. Yeah, that is gross. That is gross, the goblins. I'm sorry I even said it. I'll say worse someday, I'm sure. Certain spell immunity. Although it should be rather obvious, the spell works against nearly any form of enchantment / charm. Thus, forget hypnosis, ray of enfeeblement, +9. Antipathy, sympathy, confusion, mass suggestion, +7. Chaos, feeble mind, Otto's irresistible dance, +5. Any other such spells can be adjudicated from the list in the player's handbook and herein. So the spell immunity is supposed to be a additional buffer against being hit with one of these nasty spells. And it's an 8th level spell after all. It should be powerful. So don't look at this and look, well, it's still a chance that the spell can get through. It's not... it's a plus to saving throws, if I recall correctly, so double check that, but it doesn't make it impossible. 9th level spells. Astral Spell C. Cleric spell is the same name of commentary, so too Gate. Imprisonment. To find what number of creatures are freed, roll percentile dice and find the density of imprisoned creatures before rolling the number. Multiply the first roll by the second, rounding any remainders to the nearest whole. For each such creature freed, there is only a 10% chance that it will be in the area of the spellcaster. Use the random monster tables of Appendix C for these, using a d20 for level, any number of 9 or higher, indicating a 9th level monster. So it does push it toward the higher level of monster. Monster summoning 7, once again, see Appendix M, summoned monsters, prismatic sphere. At the commencement of this spell, each color is shimmering, but each represents a successive layer, rather like an onion. The first must be brought down before the second can be affected, etc. Any creature passing through gets the effect of each and every color layer still existing. So that is a case where you are putting up multiple barriers, each one distinct, each one requiring removal before one can deal with or pass through the second. Well, that's not true. You could pass through all of them just by going through all of them. If you survive, you survive, but tough to do that. Time stop. Use a stopwatch or silent count to time this. The caster must be able to complete his or her acts before spell duration expires, or else he or she will likely be found in an embarrassing act. The use of teleport spell just before the spell duration of time stop expires is permissible. So you can stop time and then get the heck out of Dodge before the end of the spell, thus giving yourself an escape route. Well, there you go. That is spell explanations from the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide up through the illusionist spells. We'll get into those on the last part, the 8th part of this series. Now I can't stop thinking about what happens. Sarah says, can't stop thinking about what happens to the flesh-eating goblins once the spell duration is over. Is there a duration or is it permanent? No, it is permanent. So yeah, when you use that spell to turn somebody from a statue back to flesh who's been hit by a Medusa or a basilisk, there is not a duration on it. It does not expire at some point, turning the person back to stone. So there you go. Yeah, that'd be a nasty little trick. But then again, if someone's turned to stone and you want to temporarily turn them back to flesh just so you can communicate what happened to you, where did you leave the map we were looking for, ask them a number of questions, and they turn back to stone and you don't care, well, reposition them. Give them some different equipment so they're a much more attractive statue for your garden. Certainly pose them in ways that make them seem more heroic than like they looked when they saw the Medusa. That seems to be a very popular look when you see a Medusa's, oh no! So there's got to be a lot of statues out there that look like that in around Medusa layers. George says, I suspect there is some rest needed once turned back. You would think you definitely roll in a system shock survival roll to make the transition and not have a heart attack or a stroke and die because of the transition. So there's that. Any other questions about spells today? Really, most of them refer to ones we already went over under other casters because there's a lot of crossover, and a lot of them refer to the appendices because it's a matter of rolling on a certain table. From flesh to stone and back to flesh has tone. Has to be tough on the system, I gotta say, is what you're saying? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can just pop back and forth regularly. I suppose Polymorph Self, which has a duration, or Polymorph Others, is that permanent? Pretty sure that is. There's got to be a few spells where you could do that sort of thing. No more questions, says Sarah. Very good. And I think, what are we doing on time there? Yeah, we're into the 20s. I guess we could shut it down now. Let's say this, though. There'll be a lot to talk about on the Illusionist thing next Thursday. I'm thinking about taking a break, a summer break, like I took a winter break, and doing that traditionally every year. A little break in the summer, a little break in the winter. So maybe in July at some point I'll take a few weeks, or maybe in August. I'm not sure yet. So just putting it out there for now. Won't happen immediately. I think next Monday I'm going to talk about that famous what's it called? DM's log? Yeah. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Fantasy Adventure Module Dungeon Master's Adventure Log. I'm going to be talking about that product because I want to approach this new campaign, Sarah, and others, with a different. I've always been one who takes enough notes to get by but not so much that it seems like work. And I'm wondering if maybe it's possible that in the process of doing it that way, I have, in some cases, created more work for myself or made things tougher on myself. Maybe some of these products like that, the Dungeon Master's Design Kit, are things that I can take a closer look at in conjunction with starting up this new campaign, this new first edition campaign, um, to see if there's something I've been missing. I mean, these are 1980, 80, 81 products, so they're 40-year-old products. People have lauded them as being great, and others have shrugged them off as a way of creating more work where it doesn't need to exist. I've been mostly in that second camp, and I'm wondering if I've given short shrift to these items as a lazy DM's guide. I hope that'll help me. Yeah, sometimes I've checked those. Is it Michael Shea? Is that his name? Um, a lot of good advice from him, for sure. I've seen him design stuff too on his Twitch channel, where he's just get down and dirty with putting together some work, and it's always very interesting to watch the process. Circa 1988. There you go. There you go. I'm pretty sure this one says 1980, and it's Dungeon. Is it the Design Guys 1988? Which one are we talking about there? Oh, Dungeon Master's Design Kit. Gotcha. There you go. Yeah, I've got that around here too, and I've been thinking about using that as well. Although most of what I have that people will probably be exploring is stuff that I've had for years, it doesn't mean I can't use those to reorganize it and to take another look for gaps or holes in the design process, for things I can fill in that will make it richer and more interesting, more fun. We'll see. Anywho, I think that takes us there. So I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody in the chat here. If you're catching up with this on YouTube, or on Twitch rather, please by all means follow the channel and jump on in and say hello in the chat while you're here, because there are other people here and you can do that and it's fun. Huzzah. If you're catching up with this on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel. Give a thumbs up to any videos you like and or enjoy. Comments. Feel free to leave comments if you wish to chime in, give a little constructive criticism, or just discuss the theme of whatever the show is at the time. And by all means, after you subscribe, click the little bells. You notifications of when new shows are uploaded. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.